Coach, Thibodeaux, was a report out there. I know we just got a text on it, but it's a sprain, ACL.
Yeah. Yep. And not, you said ACL?
MCL.
Yeah, MCL. Yep.
Okay. And Coach, just a quick follow-up. When you look at that play with Drew Wilkins last night, is there something technique-wise that Thibodeaux could do different to maybe avoid a situation like what happened last night?
Yeah, those are tough blocks, the blocks that are coming from across the line of scrimmage within the tackle box. You got to see it, and then you got to do a great job of trying to play with your hands. So, it's unfortunate that KT went down, but that's part of the game.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dan Duggan.
Hey, Dave, just curious, that last play, the way you guys defended that, who came up with that, and how much have you actually practiced that?
Well, there's certain, we try to practice as many different situations. We practice a lot of them offensively, what we would do in that situation. Defensively, there's different ways to defend it. I think that, Wink has done a really good job of implementing his stuff, along with the assistant coaches that we have. But, Fox sitting there on the sideline and defending the sideline when they have no timeouts. It was a good play. Obviously, it was a good hit. We want to make sure it's clean. He led with his shoulder. But, it was good situational football, a good call by Wink, and well executed by the players.
And one other just game question, if I could.
Sure.
The 2-point conversion. Why'd you go for 2 there? You said there's some confusion there. Just curious what.
Well, no, there wasn't. I wanted to go for 2 relative to a kicking situation. Graham was out, and I just thought there was, it was a good time to work some 2-point stuff, and then, again, it was a good time to kick Jamie, even though he hasn't really been kicking very much, and Julian holding and doing all those things. You never know what could happen. Last year we were involved in a game where an opponent's kicker got hurt pregame, and it was basically they had to go for it every snap. So just kind of trying to work some different situations with the players relative to, what we were dealt with Graham going down there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Pat Leonard.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good, Pat. How are you?
Good. There was a timeline reported on Kayvon 3 to 4 weeks, and that you were hopeful for week 1. Is that accurate? Are you feeling that optimistic that he could play in the opener, or is there a chance he does not?
Yeah, I'd say it's day to day. Really, I'm not forecasting. When a player can come back or not come back. I know he'll come in and get treatment. We'll take it day by day, and when he's ready to go out there, that's when we'll put him out there.
Did he go into the city this morning for an MRI? Like, what was kind of the timeline of events there?
Yeah, we took care of that stuff, yesterday, this morning, and had our medical meeting here this morning with the doctor and Joe, and kind of normal what we do after every game. So fingers crossed. Hopefully his rehab goes well and he can get out there as soon as he can.
Brian Dunleavy.
Hey, Daves, what's
Hey, Ryan.
what's with Kayvon? Like, what kind of training camp? Now that it's over, what kind of training camp did he have, and how important is this missed time? Like, will you feel like he got all the work he needed whenever he does come out? Like, how valuable is this missed 2 weeks to him?
Well, I think every time you miss a practice, it's a great, it's valuable. It's valuable out at practice. You try to simulate it as best you can to gain live reps, but as many repetitions as any of our guys can get, whether it's a rookie or a veteran, I think that helps them. It helps each unit. So, again, KT has been doing everything we asked him to do since he's been here. He's been a good teammate. He's worked extremely hard. So certainly time missed. You never want to miss time, but he has the right attitude, the right approach. He'll rehab as hard as he can rehab and be ready to go when he's ready to go.
So who do you look to, Brian, to fill those spots? what have you seen from some of the next guys in order? Whether it's, I know we know Ojulari will be on one side, but fill in Kayvon's shoes. Whether it's Ward or Zimenez, who do you look to there, and what have you seen behind Kayvon?
Yeah, I think Drew's done a good job with all those guys, those edge guys. From top to bottom. I mean, Fox had a really good night last night too, setting the edge, playing physical. Q and Big X and Jihad, Haughty and all those guys have really done a good job of understanding our system and making most of their opportunities when they get in there.
Tom Rock.
It was good to have Z's back too, Ryan. He had 10 reps, caused 2 holding penalties. Looked good out there for the first time.
Brian, I want to ask you about Graham's situation. Do you need to bring in a kicker maybe for the preseason game against the Jets, or can you kind of get by with Jamie maybe doing it if he's not ready to go next Sunday?
That's Joe and I are going to talk about that. We've had preliminary discussions on it. We're, possibly going to bring in a kicker. You don't want to wear Jamie out. The different angles that he has to kick from. So we're in the process of talking about that, and we definitely could bring one in.
And then I wanted to ask you a quick question about the offense last night. Daniel seemed very, very effective. He was on the field for, I think, 20, 21 snaps with Kenny. Didn't seem like they even looked at each other. Is that a level of concern? Was that by design? What was going on there?
No, I mean, look, unless you're calling a screen pass or a jet sweep, I mean, you really don't have – you can put guys in spots that think the ball might go there as a first read, but I think Daniel did a very good job of throwing the ball where he needed to throw it, making good decisions, playing on time, playing under control. That's the unique thing about a receiver or a skilled player. You're not guaranteed to get all these looks. It's predicated, at least how we do it, is predicated on how the defense plays and our read progression. And I thought Daniel did a really good job with that.
Connor Hughes.
Yeah, hey Brian. With Kayvon's knee, I know doctors can do the original tests on the knee in terms of seeing if it's stable or not to give the early insight into if it's a potential torn ACL or anything like that. As a coach, when you get that initial report, do you allow yourself to feel any sense of optimism, or do you kind of push all that to the side and wait for the full confirmation with an MRI? Yeah,
I kind of wait until I think you can start thinking about a bunch of different things. When the trainers come over and just tell you they're out, and then they got to go through their, whether it's X-rays or MRIs or whatever other tests that the players need to go through, and you go to bed and you get up, you have your meetings, you get the information you need to get, and whatever it is, I think you just you deal with it. You have a plan on what you need to do to help the player get ready to go. If in this case he's going to be ready to go whenever that is. And then, on the other hand, if they're out, you get a lot of empathy for those guys that do get injured that, are out for a significant amount of time.
Paul Schwartz.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Paul.
Hey. It seems to me when watching your offensive linemen, pretty much whoever is in there, that they seem to be doing a good job of communicating and passing off guys with all kinds of tricks and things up front, that there's not a lot of confusion up there. In the past, that's been a problem. You haven't been here in the past, obviously, but do you sing the same thing, and whether they physically win the play or not, they're at least in the right place and understanding what each other is supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I think we've made progress with that since we've been here. We certainly have a ways to go of that, but I do think our centers do a good job of communicating. Max did a good job for not being in there a whole bunch of communicating. And Holden, who really hasn't, now he's played all 5 spots. He was able to, do a good job of communicating with the players around him and getting everybody on the page for the most part. I mean, that's the challenge, Paul, of offensive line play, is trying to get 5 guys to act as one. Because if one part of it breaks down, it makes all 5 of them, usually look bad. And that's where, offensively, that's where we want to start with the same defensively as up front. our defensive line and our offensive line have to set the tempo for our team, and that's what we work towards every day.
And one other thing, you always mention smart, tough, dependable. Smart is always first.
Yeah.
I'm sure for a reason. Is that especially important with this offensive line? Because you can get guys who aren't high pedigree guys, but if they're smart, is that really crucial to what has to happen up there?
Yeah, for us, absolutely. I would just not just the offensive line, but since you're asking, yeah, it is. Smart, being able to communicate well. Again, having toughness and being dependable, that's important really for every position, but, in particular, offensive line, and you add on top of that the communication factor that I talked about of all 5 of those guys trying to act as one. That's important because it's a very tough position to play. It's physically tough, and I'd say it's mentally challenged too with the variety of looks that you get down in from a defense.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it.
We're going to take 5 more. Art Stapleton.
Hey, Daves.
Hey, Art. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
We got the official word about Beavers, obviously, with the torn ACL.
Yep.
Blow for him. What was that like when you were trying to meet with him and kind of talk to him about what the next step is going to be?
Yeah, I'd just say that, for these guys that, and I've said this before, you just have a tremendous amount of respect for the players because, you see them on away games or you see them early in the morning on their off days of how much they take care of their body. Obviously, it's their tool. And whenever, when something like that happens, there's a wide range of emotions, I'd say, for every player, and each player is different. So you try to be there to be supportive and, do the best job you can in that regard. And, what's next and have your mind on what's next and help the players in any way you can. So it's tough. McKeithen had one, and then now Beavers had one for young players. That's tough, particularly guys that were developing and doing a good job in camp, with a bright future.
Just one quick thing off of that. Beavers have been getting a lot of time with Blake being, worked back in. Blake getting his action last night. Do you feel like Blake is in position to kind of maybe accelerate a little bit towards the opener, or are you still kind of in that status quo for him?
Yeah, we've been working him back in. He had good 10 reps, maybe a little bit less than that, but active, was in where he's supposed to be, read the offense well. Have a lot of confidence in Blake.
Thanks.
Yep.
Jordan Renan.
Hey, Brian, what's up?
Hey,
What's
Jordan,
going on,
how are
man?
you?
Hey, good.
Good.
I want to look forward for a second here. This week you have a joint practice with the Jets. I want to know what went into that for you, and how much were you aware of? It's sort of like a big deal the last time. I know it's a long time ago at this point, but the last time that these teams did have a joint practice.
I've heard some stories about that. About the last, it was a while back, right? I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Sala. Really got to meet him at the owners' meetings back in March or April, whenever it was. And then when we talked about potentially practicing against one another, we kind of went around and around. I think they have a game tonight, if I'm not mistaken, against Atlanta. So we ended up doing just one instead of two based on their schedule and our schedule. Anytime you practice against a team, you want to get good work in. Practice the right way. It's almost like you're practicing against your team. I'd say it's pretty competitive, but you still want to take care of one another, knowing that you only have so many guys, and you want to try to keep people up and stay away from the quarterback. And having the conversations I've had with Coach Sala up to this point, they've been good. We'll revisit it after his game tonight. Make sure that we're kind of in line with what we want to do relative to the schedule and the injuries that each team has, and make sure we're doing what's best for our players and get something productive out of it.
And what kind of stories did you hear about that last practice?
There was some brawls there, I heard.
But also the coaches were yelling at each other, so I was curious if you were aware of that.
No, I didn't hear that one. No, I just heard there was some couple brawls in there, which we'll try to stay away from.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Tom Canavan.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good, Tom. How are you?
Good. One of the things, in less than 3 weeks, you're going to play your first regular season game. And I mean, you've been going at this for 8 months now. Do you have any idea where you are in respects to being ready for that first season, that first game?
Yeah, I think what you try to do is focus on each day and improving each day and improve from game to game. It'll get on you quick, but I you have to take care of what's in front of you today and improve those things and keep building on it. And that's the way we approach it. We don't look too far ahead, don't look too far behind. Learn from certainly our mistakes and try to build to be better each day.
Is there any area that concerns you other than injuries?
Yeah, look, you're always trying to get better. You're never where you need to be, particularly early in the season. You're still trying to find out, even the first couple of years, that some of those championship teams that I was fortunate to be part of, there was, the first couple of games, you're still trying to figure out exactly what you are. You keep improving. It might not be, exactly where you want to be early in the season. You like to get off to a fast start, but, there's games in September, they're really important to get off to a fast start. But I think your fundamentals, your techniques, the big things that you need to do in every football game, but particularly early in the year, the blocking, the catching, the getting open, being on the same page, those are critical because you really don't know, you can watch a team in the offseason and study them, but each team evolves every year. They might have been one thing one year, and you think you're going to get it in the first couple games, and they're turning into something else, or they're using players a different way. So it really comes down to being good technicians, good at fundamentals, doing the big things right, ball security, those type of things.
Thank you.
You got it.
Last two here, Pat Leonard and then Ryan Dunleavy. Pat, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, just curious, what do you attribute to the amount of injuries you guys have had so far? And is it becoming overwhelming to deal with so many and, including some key guys?
I think injuries are a part of the game, Pat. Look, you never want guys to get hurt, but that's the nature of playing a contact physical sport at the highest level. Certain things happen that, some of are out of your control. And have been part of this league for a long time, coach guys that have been injured. And, again, you're empathetic towards those guys, but, you try to build a deeper roster as you can so that the next guy's up. That being said, you never want guys on your team to be hurt or on the other team for that matter. That's their livelihoods, and you have, again, empathy towards that. And you try to do your best to eliminate, as many injuries as you can. But it's a physical sport with a lot of contact and people moving at high speeds. And, unfortunately, you're going to have some of those.
Ryan Dunleavy.
I just got one for you here, Dave. As you put together your wide receiver depth chart beyond Galladay and Tony, are you looking for the net? Because I look at it, you've had big performances from Colin Johnson, Bachman, Sills. Are you just looking for the next 3 or 4 best guys? Or do you want like a variety, like you want a fast guy, you want a tall guy, you want, a diversity of skill sets across the room? Or do you want just the next 5 best players regardless of if there's repetitiveness?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the next. I would just say the 5 best or 6 best players or 7 best, however many we're going to keep. The guys that have been out there and producing, Colin Johnson, David Sills, they've stepped their game up, and they're right in the mix. Not just to make a team, but to play. So, again, like I said, everybody's got to earn their job, earn their role, do a good job of the things they need to do, and, make the most of their opportunities when they get them.